Welcome back to Project 82, the SCP Remote Access Database. Which case file do you require?
Item number SCP-170, Object Class, Safe. SCP-170 presents no danger and as such can be safely contained in any secure storage locker. However, due to the potential misuse of the substance as well as the limited quantity of SCP-170 available, no personnel may remove it from storage without prior approval from Dr. SCP-170 appears to be a standard tube of superglue and a yellow tube 13 cm long. There is no manufacturer information or any other text on the outside of the container apart from the word superglue printed in bolded letters on the front. Whenever any amount of the substance is applied to solid material, and that solid is put in contact with any surface, both objects lose molecular cohesion in the area surrounding the contact points, allowing one to be pushed through the other. The effect lasts only moments, however. Within a third of a second of the two surfaces making contact, the ability of each to pass through the other is nullified, leaving both permanently bonded together. SCP-170 was seized in a raid on an illegal laboratory in 19. The unusual properties of SCP-170 were unknown until a standard test on all seized materials was performed on it. A laboratory technician used a pipette to extract a small amount of SCP-170 for analysis. Upon attempting to dispense the substance onto a slide, the pipette immediately passed straight through the slide, which was on a mount. Further tests were run upon the pipette/slide, and it was discovered that they were bonded on the molecular level. Upon hearing of this, SCP personnel were dispatched to confiscate all seized materials. Notable tests. Test 4. Test materials. 1 heavy-duty chain, weights of various sizes. Procedure. A small amount of SCP-170 was applied to the last link of the chain, which was then bonded to the reinforced ceiling of containment area 17F. Weights of various sizes were then hung on a chain to determine the structural failing point of the bond. Results. After approximately 9 metric tons were suspended, the chain finally snapped, but not at the bond point. It snapped at the 9th link from the bottom. All links apart from the one embedded in the ceiling were tested and showed signs of distortion and stretching. However, the bond point in the ceiling showed no signs of weakness or separation of chain and ceiling. Test 7. Test materials. 2 identical cubes of 24-karat gold, as close to 100% pure as possible. Procedure. Using robotic arms to ensure perfect alignment, Cube 1, the cube with SCP-170 applied, was pushed completely through Cube 2, leaving what appeared to be one gold cube equal in size to either of the original cubes. Results. Upon examination of the sole remaining cube, it was found to have a density of 38.6 grams per cubic centimeter, which is precisely twice the density of gold. Even melting the sample did nothing to change this, as the resulting liquid gold also had the same density. This implies that the substances don't displace each other, every atom is accounted for. Analysis of the atoms has proven that they are regular gold atoms, implying that they don't undergo nuclear fusion to accomplish the increase in density. The atoms are simply packed into a smaller space than the laws of physics would seem to allow. In light of this experiment, Dr. has requested permission to use SCP-170 to glue 2 pieces of uranium together to make a more fissile sample. Due to the obvious safety concerns this poses, this request was denied. Test 12. Test materials. 1 D-Class personnel, 1 wooden desk. Procedure. First test using live biological subjects. D-Class personnel had a small amount of SCP-170 applied to his right index finger and was instructed to poke the desk. Results. Subject's finger sank into the desk up to the first knuckle. Despite obvious panic, the subject reported no pain, discomfort, or sensation below the bond point. However, his finger quickly began swelling and turned purple as his circulatory system continued pumping blood to an area that could no longer return it. Finger was amputated between the first and second knuckle. Test 19. Test materials. 1 Pratt & Whitney F100 jet engine. The reinforced ceiling of containment area 19B. Procedure. SCP-170 was applied to the jet engine mountings, which were quickly pushed 3.2 cm, approximately 1.25 inches, into the ceiling of the chamber. After connecting an appropriate fuel supply and control system, the jet engine was fired. Results. The engine was run continuously at high speed for 40 minutes, while cameras monitored the joint point for any signs of stress. While small cracks appeared in the concrete around the joint point, there was no indication of any possible structural failures or separation of the two materials, even under a force of 120,000 newtons.
Case file ends. Which case file do you require?
Item number SCP-175. Object class Safe. SCP-175 is to be kept in a metal safe when not undergoing testing. The safe is to be secured in a storage room at site with other low-maintenance SCPs. The room will be guarded by 2 security guards at all times in accordance with security protocol. When not active, SCP-175 resembles a yellowed piece of parchment, slightly larger than a standard piece of paper. The edges are torn, and it appears weathered and brittle. However, SCP-175 is actually quite supple and is indestructible despite its worn appearance, having resisted all attempts to remove pieces for testing. The more interesting properties of SCP-175 are revealed when moved in relative proximity to a buried object. The proximity range seems to vary under unknown parameters. SCP-175 has become active in distances from as short as 30 meters to as far as several kilometers. However, on average, the distance ranges between 100 and 200 meters. When SCP-175 becomes active, its appearance changes to become either a map, a set of directions to the buried object, or some hybrid thereof. Though the approximate size and shape of SCP-175 remain constant, its appearance may change to resemble various other paper and parchment varieties, and the writing or drawing implement and style vary as well, seemingly based on the mindset of the individual or individuals who buried the object. For a partial list of buried objects and their buriers, see Document 175-08. If the buried object is dug up or the map is removed from the proximity of the object, SCP-175 reverts back to its normal state. Document 175-08. Partial list of buriers, buried objects, and appearances of SCP-175. All experiments took place at unless otherwise stated. Dr. buried a wooden box. SCP-175 became a piece of graph paper with a pencil-drawn map of the surrounding area, complete with a legend in the bottom left. The location of the treasure was clearly marked. Dr. remarked that the handwriting on SCP-175 looked identical to his own. A 5-year-old female child of Dr. was instructed to bury a wooden box with a couple of her toys in it. SCP-175 became a crayon-drawn map of the surrounding area on a white piece of paper, clearly modeled on the style of a normal child of that age. A 10-year-old male child of Agent was instructed to bury a box containing some of his comic books. SCP-175 became a list of instructions on lined yellow paper based on several landmarks in the area, trees, rocks, etc. The instructions included where to start and how many paces to take to the next landmark, the direction to turn, and eventually where to dig. The instructions were complete with the misspellings appropriate for the knowledge of a child of that age. A well-respected professional landscape artist was instructed to bury an empty wooden box. SCP-175 became a canvas with an accurately painted overhead view of the surrounding area, with an X to mark the spot where the box was buried. A professional puzzle maker and crossword puzzle maker was instructed to bury a wooden box. SCP-175 became a piece of graph paper with several inked crossword and various other word puzzles along with a meta puzzle. Solving the smaller puzzles was necessary to find the letters to solve the meta puzzle, which was a list of instructions for where to find the buried object. Agent, who remembered a box with various objects that he had buried in his backyard at the age of 8, traveled with a research team to SCP-175 became a pencil-drawn map of the surrounding area along with labels that did not match his current handwriting, but did match his handwriting from several papers his parents had kept that he had done at that age. Most remarkably, the map included several trees that had been cut down in the years since the box was buried. A D-Class personnel who had been a professional architect before his conviction as a serial killer was instructed to bury a wooden box. For full details, those with sufficient clearance should see Addendum 175-13. During transport of SCP-175, along with numerous other safe SCPs to one of the guards in the truck reported a high-pitched whine coming from the crate containing SCP-175. As per protocol, the truck was stopped and evacuated, and the nearest task force, Mobile Task Force Omega-7, Pandora's Box, was sent to investigate after being briefed on the contents of the crate. According to the debrief, they found a sheet of metal which was emitting the whine, and the sound increased in pitch and volume as they neared a specific location. Digging in this area uncovered SCP, at which point the metal sheet reverted to the inactive state of SCP-175. Addendum 175-13. On a D-Class personnel who had been a professional architect prior to his conviction as a serial killer, was instructed to bury a wooden box. The intended purpose of this experiment was to see what SCP-175 would look like when buried by an architect. When Dr. looked at SCP-175, once the box was buried, he immediately screamed, dropped to his knees, clutching his head with both hands, dropping SCP-175 to the ground, luckily face down. Agent, who was standing by the side of Dr. during this experiment, reported a flickering mass of color and a sense of extreme nausea at a glimpse of SCP-175 before it drifted to the ground. He quickly dug up the box in order to reset SCP-175. Dr. went into a coma after this incident, and intense psychological screening of the D-Class subject revealed a well-hidden schizophrenia and sociopathy. Since this experiment, strict protocol has been put in place to protect the mental health of researchers.
Thank you for your participation in Project 82, transmitting psioanalytic data to Dr.